In the year of our Lord, 1890, London presented itself as a vast labyrinth shrouded in a persistent fog, a murky veil that seemed to devour the very essence of the city. The smoke from factories mingled with the mist, creating a heavy air that clung to the skin like an oppressive mantle. Among the flickering lights of gas lamps, a man lost himself in the shadows. Martin Harrington, a solitary artist whose quest for truth had led him to the abyss of forbidden knowledge. Martin spent his days sequestered in his studio, a cluttered and dusty space in an old Victorian building. The walls were covered with unfinished canvases, each a fragmented representation of his tormented soul. However, his true masterpieces were the grimoires and ancient tomes that filled his shelves, each overflowing with arcane formulas and ancient symbols that revealed secrets long forgotten by mankind. From a young age, he had felt an inexplicable attraction to the unknown, to the unexplainable, a thirst that could never be quenched. Each night, as the city succumbed to a deep slumber, Martin surrendered to the currents of the subconscious. His dreams became a refuge of escapism, but soon morphed into a passageway to terror. In those dreamscapes, a horror and beauty unfolded before him. He often found himself in a forgotten city, a place where time seemed to stand still, with grotesque and sinuous architecture that defied logic. The buildings, tall and disproportionate, twisted toward the sky like tentacles, and the streets were populated with shadows that moved with a life of their own. With each visit, Martin felt increasingly drawn to this alternate world, where the rules of reality distorted. But he also sensed a growing darkness within. Each dawn left him exhausted, as if a part of his very soul had been drained. Yet fear could not compete with the curiosity that compelled him to explore beyond the confines of his mind. One fateful night, as a storm loomed over the city, Martin had a particularly vivid dream. He found himself on the coast of his dream city, where waves crashed against a cliff of black rock. The sky was veiled with tumultuous clouds, and the air was thick with an electrifying sense of imminent revelation. As he moved toward the edge of the cliff, he beheld a figure emerging from the frothy sea. Cthulhu, the great old one, awakening from its ancient slumber. The sight of this cosmic deity paralyzed him. Its long, sinuous tentacles writhed like serpents in a frenzy, and its eyes, two wells of infinite darkness, stared unflinchingly, penetrating the superficiality of his being and reaching deep into his soul. This encounter was not merely a glimpse into the unknown. It was an invitation to madness. Martin felt an irresistible urge to draw closer, as if the creature were reclaiming what belonged to it. In that moment, the echoes of his own fear transformed into a deafening murmur resonating in his mind. The voices of ancient rituals, the words of power he had studied, floated in the air, forming a hypnotic chant that promised revelations about the nature of the universe and humanity's place within it. But with each whispered word, the shadow of Cthulhu loomed larger, threatening to engulf his sanity. He awoke in his studio, drenched in sweat, the vision of Cthulhu still fresh in his mind. However, his curiosity had been ignited. He could not ignore the call of the abyss. For days, he immersed himself in his books, seeking explanations, trying to unravel the mystery that had haunted him. But the more he read, the more he realized there were things he should not know. The following nights became a cycle of insomnia and terror. Each time he sank into sleep, he found himself once more on the coast, facing the titanic presence of Cthulhu. Each encounter drew him closer to the abyss, and the boundary between reality and dreams blurred. He began to notice that the streets of London grew increasingly strange. The fog seemed to move with a life of its own, whispering secrets in a forgotten language. Martin understood that Cthulhu was not simply a being from another world. It was a symbol of the madness that lurked in the depths of his own being. The pursuit of knowledge had awakened something within him, something he could not control. The quest for absolute understanding had transformed into a dance with horror. Finally, one stormy night, Martin made a desperate decision. He headed to the coast, to the very place where he had encountered Cthulhu in his dreams. The wind howled around him, and the rain struck his face like the mocking laughter of a derisive god. Upon reaching the shore, the sea churned violently, the waves towering toward the sky. Without hesitation, he plunged into the frigid waters, feeling the icy embrace as a deadly hug. As he submerged, the pressure of the ocean enveloped him, and a disquieting peace washed over him. Through the darkness of the water, he caught a glimpse of Cthulhu's colossal form, beckoning him from the depths. He felt no fear. He surrendered to the current, offering himself to the madness and the knowledge he had sought all his life. The essence of Cthulhu enveloped him, and with one final breath, he understood that he had crossed the boundary of mortality. That was the last echo of Martin Harrington, the artist who sought the abyss and found the truth. In the silence of the depths where the light of the world could never reach, his soul merged with that of Cthulhu, a whisper more in the chorus of madness that inhabited the shadows of existence.